Available now on Blu-ray from Arrow Home Video is Flatliners, that early 90s all-star cast supernatural thriller that I saw in the theater when it came out. I saw it opening weekend at a matinee and liked it at the time. And I think I may have even, the statute of limitations has expired, I think. I think I rented and copied the tape, which didn't do it any favors because this is a widescreen movie, so the tape was a pan and scan mess. But I liked Flatliners when it came out. So when I heard it was coming out via Arrow as a 4K HDR release, it's basically you can get it as a 4K HDR as well as regular Blu-ray. So if you don't have 4K, don't worry about it. They put a Blu-ray in there too. I was like, oh, cool, I'll see Flatliners. I wonder how it holds up. I haven't seen it in a long time. I liked this when it came out. For me, it didn't hold up. Cut to the chase, I didn't like it. I'm not a fan of 90s aesthetics. I lived through the 90s. I was ostensibly legally an adult through most of the 90s, and a lot of it now just makes my stomach kind of queasy about how things were shot, how things were cut, the visual style, visual effects. It's not visual effects, I say, not like, oh, Making a Man Fly didn't look as good as it does now. Visual effects in terms of that fake smeary slow-mo they used to do, certain lighting styles they used to do. I really don't like some of the music, some of the hair, a lot of the 90s I really don't care for looking back at it now. So that comes into play with this. Keep that in mind. So Flatliners, what is that film about? You Fool, You Fool. Flatliners is about a group of medical students, and Kiefer Sutherland is part of this group, and he decides he wants to do these experiments on himself as to what happens after you die. So he devises a way that he can be chemically induced dead. Your brain and heart and whatever can survive a certain amount of time before it's really over. You could get revived, but you would be, catatonic or something. So he figures that out, and he slowly convinces all his cohorts to be the people to monitor him while he does this. And he has all these visions, and he says, oh my God, it's amazing. I can't describe it, but if you've got the guts, you should do it. I dare you. You do it too. You got to do it too. This all-star cast, by the way, Kiefer, especially, they were like super hot actors at that time. Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon, Billy Baldwin, Oliver Platt, Julia Roberts. And they're predominantly the cast. You don't really see a lot of other people in this movie. They're med students at this bizarre medical school that looks like it's in an abandoned mansion where it's always dimly lit, and there are all these like statues that are Greek statues and marble floors and marble columns, and everything is draped in plastic, and it's weird. It's Joel Schumacher did this, and Joel Schumacher was always a guy who was mostly more about, to me, style over substance, and that really shows here with the lighting, and there's always smoke blowing. Every time they're outside at night, it's weird colored lights and smoke blowing. No matter where they are, there's smoke coming up out of a grate somewhere. It's like Tony Scott, where every room always had light coming through Venetian blinds and an orange glow across the top of the screen, and a smoke-filled room, no matter, even a kid's bedroom, that was done once. So the style is really silly. The med school, there's like early on, they're having an exam examining cadavers, and it's in this incredibly dimly lit, stylishly dimly lit room. And I'm like, I kind of feel like in a medical situation, they tend to really light things well. None of this bothered me when I saw the movie originally. It was just like, oh man, that place is cool, which is probably how most people are going to watch this. So one by one, they decide to all undergo this experience. And what they find is when they're on the other side, they're confronted by people they wronged in their past. And those ghosts of ill deeds past kind of follow them into the present. So everybody is kind of haunted by visions and or manifestations of people they wronged before. Now, what's weird about this to me is that I think in most cases in this storyline, they're not people who died. It's more like these med students, their conscience is manifesting itself. The guilt is manifesting itself as things that are tormenting them and taunting them and driving them crazy and making them deeply regret going to the other side and coming back. So the film kind of builds up to how do they all deal with this increasing bothersomeness of things that they internally feel like they did in the past. It's just weird because it's treated as though it's like a ghost story. It's treated as though this is like these people are being haunted by ghosts, but it's not. It's like it's very interesting. This movie was actually remade just a couple of years ago, but like 99.9% of remakes, the rest of the world forgot that even happened. So when I was looking up some information for Flatliners, it was like There was one like a year ago. So this is available. It looks good. This is not one that I would say looks phenomenal in 4K. Sometimes the difference to me between Blu-ray and 4K is that the 4K is a little bit sharper, and sometimes they do a restoration to the degree where you're like, wow, this looks nearly like 3D. I think part of it is how this movie was shot. It was that 90s look of kind of saturated color to a degree and kind of hazy here and there, and it just doesn't. It looks good. I'm sure this movie's never looked better on video, but for my eye, it didn't pop like some other things do. The extras on this are, well, one more thing. I'm glancing at my notes over here. What I wrote was overwrought, kind of cheesy, many over-the-top performances. Julia Roberts comes off best. That's my take on Flatliners. I watched it now. It seemed really silly and cheesy. It's a cool idea, but for some reason, seeing it at whatever age I was when this came out, in my late teens, I was in college, so I was probably like 18, 19 when I saw this. I liked it. Seeing it now, I'm like, this is just kind of silly. Arrow goes above and beyond on the extras. So if you think I'm full of it, but you still want to see this and know more about this, I don't have a list of all the extras. They were voluminous. It was like a lot. It was tons of new and vintage interviews and behind the scenes and EPK, electronic press kit stuff, to promote and give background on the film. So there's a lot on this. So if you're a fan of Flatliners, this is probably an essential release for you, because Arrow really does it great. They almost specialize in putting all of your other versions of a certain film in the free pile. So available now on 4K HDR Blu-ray and Blu-ray from Arrow Home Video, Flatliners.